Nice to have you all again here this year. Excited to be sharing all the updates around the BI space and especially around Databricks SQL integrations that we've been working on. And I'm here with Jade, who's one of our lead engineers on the BI and partnerships team. And I myself have been looking over the product management of Databricks SQL, Lakehouse Federation, and some of our BI partnerships. So just some standard conference stuff I have to tell you, which is all of this is subject to change without notice. So most of this will deliver, but there might be things that change outside of the timeline. As we kind of think about partnerships, integrations, and how we make Databricks SQL integrated in the ecosystem and useful for you, we kind of think about what tooling everyone uses, right? And if you think about it, everyone wants to use the tools they love and know already, and they want them to work in a really deep fashion and in an integrated fashion. But as time has passed over the last 5-10 years, especially on like the BI space, integration space, and a lot of these partner areas, the ecosystem has gone really wide, and it's been ever changing, right? There's new integrations, faster ways to integrate with data, faster ways to transfer data, and definitely more ways to just do the integrations themselves. And I think we've done a good job as Databricks SQL partner team, right, on supporting multiple kind of different areas of integrations, right? Whether that's the integration space, integrated more data sources, data science ML, governance, security, orchestration, and one of today's focus is business intelligence, right? But as you kind of just even look at the business intelligence category there, they're like, I think I was able to put like 10 there, but they're actually more than 10, like 25, 30 first-class integrations we support with the platform, right? It's ever changing. And just because you're kind of supporting individual tools out of the box doesn't necessarily mean that you're kind of supporting everything else that's going to come. So there is a balance game that we've been kind of playing. And with all these partnerships, right, with all these, great kind of partner-driven applications, partner-driven, use cases, partner-driven dashboards, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth. And sorry, the subtitles are actually taking, but that's actually the last 4 years. And every year, we were able to basically more than double, actually more than triple, in terms of usage. That was driven by our partners on Databricks SQL, right? And that basically now, just on Databricks SQL, is more than 6,000 monthly active users, right? And a lot of that, big part of that is actually on the business intelligence side, kind of folks using this. And this is not users, by the way, this is customers. So daily active users is actually a much higher number. And as I was saying, right, with that momentum, with that usage, and with that breadth of the ecosystem comes also problems, right? You have this breadth problem of supporting many tools, many custom applications, many languages, many kind of different integration points. But at the same time, you have to go deep, right? Because you have the Power BIs of the world, Tableaus of the world, DBTs of the world, you name it, across different partners that, you want to have a very solid, first-class, deep integration. And today I want to talk about 3 kind of pillars that we have as we kind of think about how we manage this, right? Those are, how do we go deep, especially on the business space, business intelligence space, and, some of our data integration space. How we kind of make the larger ecosystem, very plug and play with open APIs, drivers, and we're going to talk about a few exciting things on that side too. And finally, just a few quick recap on how we're managing things at the platform level to either make future partners for onboarding themselves, and you guys from being able to use any new partner that we add to the system, whether that's BI, integration, you name it, data science and ML, easily from the Databricks SQL platform. And before we start, by the way, we're probably going to spend 20 minutes going over this stuff, then a 15-minute demo on it, and I'll try to have 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A. So if you have anything, just kind of save that for later so we can quickly go over all of those questions. All right, so one of the main areas that we've been focusing on, especially on the last 6 months, have been around how can we make BI tool integrations, management of metadata, management of data sets, the back and forth between these, the top partners we have in terms of in terms of business intelligence, such as Power BI, Tableau, very solid and easy to use for you and integrated into your workflow. And if you kind of think about how you go from a Databricks gold layer table or platinum layer, if you call it platinum, right, to your BI tool, it's a journey, right? So you kind of start with, creating your gold layer, right, transforming that from bronze, silver into your modeled gold tables, right? At this point, you have different tables with relationships defined, right? You kind of have your data model built out on your gold layer on Databricks. And this format is basically the task end where you're doing that task. Just as I add more tasks, you'll see that, right? And then the next tool is, in most cases, right, whether you're in Power BI or Tableau, you actually switch to the desktop version of that tool, connect to Databricks, enter your credentials, refresh your credentials if they expire, and then basically have that connection managed on that side. And then after that, right, there's the aspect of modeling, right? So you kind of get to a point where you're selecting the models, defining the relationships again in that layer, and then publishing to the online platform so that others can build on it. And then the final step here is basically, going to the online platform and then taking those data sets, governing them on that side, then authoring reports, and this might be different personas at this point, and then letting your users consume it. And I had to actually squeeze the last two things as joint steps, but technically those are all separate steps. So you could kind of think of the last two as 4 different steps. And finally, guess what? You rinse and repeat, right? As your data sets change, as your modeling needs change, right? As your goal layer changes, you kind of have to go through this actually, a bunch of times over and over again. And this is expected. This is the way we've kind of been doing it for, a lot of years now. But how could this be better? So the first thing is, right, this is not really integrated into one of the platforms. You kind of do a lot of things in one platform and then go to the other platform and then go back. So there's a lot of this context switching. On top of the context switching, even within the same platform, you're actually hopping through the desktop, the online, the server, whatever your needs are, right? And then that kind of creates another kind of layer of friction. And this is going to get better, by the way, without us fixing it too, but it is, mostly the current state of the world. The third pillar is kind of the fact that you kind of have to manage the connections, the connectivity, how you're authenticating in the Databricks from the BI tool, in the BI tool, and then having to also manage that on the Databricks side, right? And then another fourth area is on the modeling side, right? You basically end up modeling relationships such as foreign keys, primary keys on the Databricks side. And then in most cases, after you select those tables and data sets from the BI tool side, you end up defining those relationships again, and then have to update them again as they change, which is the last point, right? Things are not necessarily pushed at the metadata layer as your goal layer changes. So it doesn't really respond in a up-to-date fashion to your needs. And as we've been imagining how this could be better, right, to kind of remove some of these steps from your journey, we simplified the whole stack to be actually 3 steps. Again, you start with having your goal layer created. At that point, we actually know the different tables, the relationships that you have at your base tables. So we kind of know your basic data model. This is not necessarily your measures in Power BI, by the way, but your base tables and how they relate to each other. You can kind of think of this like an entity diagram and the whole relationships that are related to that. And then now, as opposed to going through 2, 3 other steps, you basically just go publish either in the UI or in the feature through an API that we're going to give you so that you can directly integrate this into your workflows, whether that's Databricks workflows, whether you're using an external orchestration, or whether you want to just call this from a notebook, right? So you publish that dataset metadata, and that already will include the connection details to Databricks, your authentication details, whether you want to do auth in the future, your warehouse details, so you don't have to kind of remember what to publish or have to give the permissions. It will actually automatically work. It will include the modeling details, so right, all of those data sets, the columns, the comments on those data sets, the individual column namings that you might have updated, or the relationships will also get published. And you now also have the option to keep them in sync automatically as changes happen by making sure that you're automating that process on our side. So as opposed to kind of it being a pull model, it could be a push model as you're changing your data model on the goal layer side. And then finally, the same step, which is now all of this is available to your end users, to your BI operations folks, to just be able to look at the data and get insights by directly consuming it. And the big announcement here is kind of taking all of this together is we basically partnered with Power BI and Tableau to make this a reality. So now, starting today, actually starting a few weeks ago, the Power BI integration has been live in public preview. So you can actually go ahead and access that through your workspaces and make that available, right? You can directly go from a UC dataset or UC schema and publish that schema information, warehouse information, connection details, and all the relationships directly from the Databricks UI and APIs in the future to Power BI and keep them up to sync. And similarly, we're also working with Tableau at the moment to make sure that we can achieve something very similar with them. And that's going to be a Q3 preview, so in a few months or so. And with that, right, you kind of have directly a UI experience as well as a programmatic experience in the future to be able to manage all of this without having to switch to different environments or switch to different desktop, online, platform, this one, that one. So a lot of simplicity benefits on this side. And as we kind of think about what's next, right? How can we improve this even better? How can we make this more deeply ingrained in your pipelines? The big item here is making sure that we give you API-based capabilities so that you can directly use your REST API, your Databricks Workflows APIs, and all of these integrated things at the end of your pipeline so that that becomes an integrated piece of workflow that you do. You're going to be able to also use the same API to manage the whole thing and then also schedule the automatic publishing that I was talking about. This will shortly get integrated as part of the lineage in Unity Catalog. So you're going to be able to see what data sets you published, to which Power BI/Fabric workspace, which Tableau workspace, and then kind of see how that relates to everything else in your stack, right? And obviously, admins need their capabilities, so we'll basically have a view to make sure that you can manage other users' data sets, if that's what you desire, right? And have an admin view of kind of having a central view of like what's being published, how often it's being done, or how it's being accessed. So you'll kind of get a management view of all of this too. We'll also enable some folks to be able to limit which tools that they allow for publishing. So if your company is preferring Tableau or Power BI, you're going to be able to hide or show whichever you want per workspace to make this easy. And at the moment, we're also looking at expanding these integrations to beyond the 2 partners I just listed with you as our launch partners, right? So as third-party platforms have API support for this, right, we'll be expanding that as available. One of the other things that really excites us is the growing data sharing ecosystem, right? And data sharing is very important to us because it provides an open way to share data with any external partner or customer you might have without you having to have Databricks in between. So what that means is that without having to go through a Databricks cluster or compute or like to a non-Databricks customer, you can delta share something out directly. And then that customer can start using that data, or that partner can start using that data, again, without having to pay Databricks, pay anyone, just within their Tableau side. And this is on top of our Power BI Delta Sharing Connector that we launched before, actually. But the Tableau one is now generally available. And we're excited to be partnering with one of our partners, like Kevin, who's been running the Tableau side of the integration. And the beauty of the Delta Sharing Tableau connector is that for those external use cases that I talked about, right, where you might not have Databricks access, you can still manage and govern the shares themselves right within Unity Catalog. So you still get all the governance, tracking, lineage, whatever you name it, benefits that comes with Unity Catalog. That's still not some shadow IT situation. It's actually something that you're governing strictly under control. And just to kind of give you a sense of when to use Delta Sharing versus the regular connector, the way I see it as if you're using something within your company or within your organization, you probably want to use the regular Tableau or like Power BI connector. And then as you're kind of expanding into external parties or non-Databricks accounts or sharing with some customer, this is a great place to also consider that as an option. In most cases, we see more the internal one being used, but this is something where nice to have in your toolkit for when you need it. And more BI integrations, right? So as we kind of look at, and this is just, by the way, the top 5 that I'm showing you today. We actually have probably 5 other new integrations that we've integrated, but among those 15, these have been getting a lot of momentum, so I just wanted to make it a call out. So on the Google ecosystem, right, we're also seeing a lot of asks and usage on Looker and Looker Studio connectivity. Right, with Looker, we actually revamped our connector to improve pushdowns performance and give you support more for their advanced capabilities, such as the incremental PDTs. On Looker Studio, we've actually created a new connector for Databricks for when you don't have Looker, but you still are in the Google ecosystem and you want to get started quickly. And an exciting update for one of our other partners, Sigma, is that now their Databricks connectivity is generally available. And for those who you don't know, Sigma actually provides this familiar spreadsheet-like experience directly on your lakehouse data. And now they have this capability and integration with us called input table, where you could input something on their side, and that actually shows up on our side, which is a write functionality. So you basically have this application-like experience that you can work. But regardless to say, we're very excited about the Google ecosystem updates, as well as some of our other partners that are been ramping up and seeing a lot of momentum from our customers beyond just Tableau and Power BI. Just to switch gears very quickly, and I know, maybe some of you are on the analytics engineering side or kind of supporting these kind of Power BI, Tableau, Looker deployments as, helping manage the gold layers or helping manage the transformations leading up to them. We're also going deeper for our non-BI integration partners. And what that means is that, for example, for our partner DBT, who offers a great transformation experience on the Lakehouse, right? We've integrated their DBT pipelines directly with our own streaming ingestion, streaming tables, as well as our materialized views. And what that means is you can now natively between those two tools, like our, the DBT and DB SQL streaming tables and materialized views, get this very nice integrated experience where you can ingest, you can smartly materialize incrementally without having to do any setup. It will just work behind the scenes. And then that also comes with integration with Lakehouse Federation, which is one of my favorite features of the platform, right? Where you can now connect to Snowflake, you can connect to MySQL, Postgres, SQL Server, you name it, and then directly use that as part of your pipeline, and it will just work. And then now DBT is also integrated with some of our other core platform features, such as liquid clustering and tags and more. But the overall story here is that we take going deep as well as going wide very seriously. And that does not just include on the BI side. It actually also kind of translates into the other areas, such as, in this case, transformations. Another area that's been taking a lot of time for us is, you can basically have a lot of these out-of-the-box experiences for going deep in specific tools, but there's always going to be a next tool, or there's always going to be, an area in your stack that you cannot, and you may not be able to just connect using one of our pre-built adapters. And over the last 12 months, actually, we've taken a lot of time to make generally available pretty much everything that you're seeing here, right? From the Python connector to our Go driver to our Node.js connector, our ODBC stack, which now supports ARM-based systems, Max, based on popular requests. And, as well as now kind of going into arrow-based connectivity in ADBC with our partnership with Microsoft. But the whole idea here is to enable you to connect, query, and build from any environment that you might have in your company, because we realize everyone's environments are messy, and you have very different kind of environments to deal with, and build apps or build data applications that connect directly to the Lakehouse and make use of it directly from there. And on top of that, we are now making the SQL statement execution API, which is basically a REST API for being able to run SQL queries and connect to all of these different tooling, generally available. So now you can, do things like parameterize statements, have results retention and caching so that you don't have to wait, better performance. You can deal with multiple result formats and kind of deal in general with much more than you could do before. And this is now available as a generally available feature. Similarly, right, we've been talking a lot of our Python, Go, and Node.js connectivity and drivers. They're also now all generally available, right? So you kind of have a similar set of capabilities, but on top of that, we've also added a few little bonus features, such as smart connection management and retries for better performance, being able to deal with UC volumes, so that if you ever want to use one of these tools to manage some of your UC data or stage files directly from an application, let's say, that you're building, you can do that now. And that's very powerful because instead of having to switch APIs or go to different places, you can just do that from one of the tools that you're already using. And on top of this, now all three support Cloud Fetch. So whenever your applications or your BI tool or whatever is dealing with high throughput data, that will smartly make sure that that is having a high performance way to get transferred between Databricks and then your external system. What else? As we look at some of the other exciting things that we're now previewing, one of those things is SQL Alchemy 2.0 dialect. And this is something that the community is still in the process of picking up and kind of integrating to the different tooling. So what we're doing is we're enabling you to use either V1 or V2 of that Python connector, of SQL Alchemy directly from our Python connector 3.0 plus. So now any connector version above that will let you use that. If you're using Superset, you can be still on V1, but if you have any application that uses V2, that will also be available to you. And finally, on the driver API side, one of the big things that we're also focusing on is innovation and how we can adopt new standards that are coming up in the ecosystem, and also partnering with our top partners such as Microsoft. And one of the things here that we are excited about is Arrow database connectivity. And this is something that we're doing in conjunction with Microsoft. they're basically offering an extended stack and integrations on top of their Power BI and other large ecosystem and integration points, where using arrow-based connectivity, ADBC, especially in the .NET environment, will actually give you better performance on DAX operators. Basically, this is how Power BI calculates your measures and things. So if you're actually working with them actively to replace some of the existing connectivity to use this instead over the midterm. And then also, for those of you who are not using direct query, which is what we recommend usually, but using imports, this will also mean you might get faster imports and connect data transfers between your Databricks environments and those model refreshes that are happening. Cool. And so the last area that we want to spend a few minutes on is how we're kind of handling all of these things in the platform side. And one of the big things for us is how we onboard new partners and make them available to you so that you can get the benefits of new and upcoming partners or tools directly from within Databricks, get a quick trial experience if that's what you desire, and then go to production as soon as possible, right from within our workspaces. And Partner Connect has been the place where we've been putting a lot of energy on, and you'll see actually, and you'll probably hear more updates on that in the rest of the conference on how we're kind of evolving that into a better marketplace solution. But just to name one thing that, we've already added probably 10 plus partners just in the 6 to 9 months, and the momentum is something you'll see. And if you ever have a request for that, let us know, and then we'll be working on adding them in. And one closing note here is one of the big initiatives that we've actually just completed like a few months ago is making sure that you have security as a forefront of the partner platform. And what that means is having OAuth support, basically more secure ways to authenticate and secure your data through any endpoint. So as of a few months ago, all of our drivers and APIs are now OAuth enabled. All of our partners that you're seeing here, and actually more that I couldn't fit in there, are actually now supporting OAuth 2 by default. So that's going to be the first security model that you'll see. And then finally, we've also made it easier for our admins to manage some of these things directly in a user interface so that you can understand what's going on and handle those things much easier as opposed to having to jump out of something, jump out to like a CLI. Oh. All right, so I'll invite Jade now to the stage so that we can go through some of the things we talked, especially focus on the BI and just show you guys how some of these things work on the Power BI side. Cool. So one of the first things we wanted to show you was how the integration from, just a simple example of how the integration from Databricks Unity Catalog, Data Explorer, to Power BI works. We'll start with that. So what you're seeing right now is, this is a Databricks workspace, right? On the left-hand side, you're seeing the different areas. You're now in the Catalog Explorer screen, which is where you can browse your data sets, tables, schemas, and kind of deal with the different things. In this very simple example, let's say we want to publish a table under the Databricks and AI Summit schema called Nation into Power BI. So here you're seeing that experience of being able to publish that data set. Right here, I can select which compute I want to publish alongside it, which Power BI workspace I want to publish it to, and then if you could go back for a second. Yeah. Which Power BI workspace I want to publish it to, which data sets I'm publishing, and you could publish multiple data sets, which we're going to show you in a second, right? And in which mode you want to publish, and whether you want to publish a new data set on the Power BI side, or whether you want to take an existing data set and update it from our side, so that you're basically updating or overriding that data. Let's switch over to the data set quickly. So here, for example, we're seeing that Nation table being accessible directly from here. And in this case, I'm already getting the comment on that table as well as like some of the other details. Let's go back and actually show a more realistic example now, which is in most cases, your data model is not a single table, but it's a combination of tables that you already modeled, as I was saying, on your goal there. So now we're going to actually publish that entire schema. But before we do that, let us show you the entity relationships between some of them, just to give you an idea about like how this was actually modeled. So we'll take, again, the Nation data sets, show you the relationships within Databricks, right? So for example, this is just showing one of the joins it has, but we'll actually show you the full entity diagram on the Power BI side as well. But this is just to give you an idea that as you make more metadata and add more relationship information on our side, that will automatically show up on the Power BI side. So let's go back for a second. And then let's actually go ahead and publish the whole Databricks NI Summit schema. Here you're seeing that we're going to be publishing 8 different data sets. And we're going to be updating that data set that we just published that nation table to. So as opposed to creating a new one, it's actually going to go and update that one. And one note here, by the way, is because of the API limitations, you will need a Power BI premium workspace for this API integration to work. And that's just a requirement on the Power BI Microsoft side. And as we now switch over to the database view here, you're now seeing all those relationships and the different dimensions / fact tables already modeled showing up here. And the beauty is, for example, on that customers table, Jade actually accepted one of the AI-based comment suggestions, table descriptions ahead. And now that AI-based recommendation was accepted on our side, it actually will show up directly on the Power BI side, so you don't have to actually create all these comments. You can have a head start by AI-suggested descriptions, column names, column descriptions, all of these things, and they will automatically show up on the Power BI side. And let's actually go ahead now and then show you guys just this running a query. And the way we publish this is, again, this is just metadata publishing. We're not sending any data. We're basically sending Power BI information about your data sets, which schemas and catalogs they live under, information about the DB SQL warehouse. And as you're dragging and dropping, like Jade is doing here, for example, we're now looking at the number of orders by volume of price over like different countries, where Egypt, Canada, Brazil are the top 3, right? What's happened just now is it basically sent a query as a direct query integration to Databricks, retrieve the results and show you that directly on here, which is great. Cool. Let's now switch gears a bit and show you all doing the similar thing on the Tableau side for those of you who are on the Tableau side. And here, just go back to Jade. Actually, we'll cover one more thing. Show that drop down for a second. One thing that I just want to point out is, if for those of you who are still using just the desktop versions or the non-cloud or the non-workspace versions, this is already available for you to use it on desktop. We are now improving all of these things to work with one Tableau cloud and to Power BI workspaces. And this is the thing where if you're an admin or if you're managing BI operations, you can actually limit it so that you don't have to show them all of this ahead of time. You can just show the tools that you want them to publish to. All right, let's go ahead with the Tableau Cloud one. And here again, we're going to be publishing 8 data sets. Let's go ahead and explore them in Tableau Cloud. And the Power BI experience, as I told you, is available as of today. And then the Tableau experience is something we're working on with them to make sure that the API on their side is publicly available, which is going to be around Q3 timeframe for those of you who are interested in that. And here we can go back to the datasets tab, and all of those datasets will be available there, as we said. Let's drag the orders table just to do a quick query on top of it. But I think you guys get the idea about how this works now, which is that, as you're basically publishing this metadata and updating it, both on your workspace on the Power BI side and Tableau side, this is all available for you to start querying. Here we're just going to look at some, again, total sum of all the orders over the years, which looks like they plummeted actually in the last, whatever that year is. But again, that was a direct query directly into the lakehouse through Databricks to give me an idea. One other thing I talked about in the slides that we wanted to show you guys was delta sharing and how that works. So let's now assume that you wanted to share a data set externally with someone that doesn't use Databricks. Maybe they don't actually have an account, or you just wanted to use this as a mechanism to distribute some of your data sets. And we're going to be showing to you Tableau, but as I reminded you, we actually also support this in the Power BI side, right? So now what we're doing is we're connecting into a delta share that Jade already has published and made available with the security, as I told you, governed by Unity Catalog. And now we're opening that up from the Databricks side. This connector is already available. It will be already available in the Tableau Exchange. So if you want to ever give it a try, you can go to Tableau Exchange online, download it, and then that will be available for you to just run with it. So we're going to be now querying the call center data set. And as you can see, I can see the metadata, it being loaded. And then I can also start, running a quick query against it if you want it. maybe just show that. And what's happening here is, as opposed to going through Tableau to the warehouse to lake, Tableau is directly going against the lake here and then giving the results. Obviously, as you go against, again, big data sets, things where you actually need like very fast, snappy compute, this is probably not the best way unless you want to import it all the time. But this gives you a way to, again, deal with those external sharing scenarios, those kind of customers that do not have Tableau already. Databricks already. And here, that actually already pulled from the Delta share and make that data available for you to query. Switching gears a bit, right? Kind of talking about other partners that we've been working with. Looker Studio connector is also something we made available very recently. And that is now available as a preview for you guys, for you all to try. And here, right, you can go to Looker Studio, quickly select for Databricks. And similarly to how we've kind of connected from any other BI tool, we can basically authenticate, select your different tables that you want to interact with, or directly like write a SQL query to be pushed down. And then that will be available for you to, again, to make use for yourself or others in your organization. And then we typically see different folks managing the data sources and then different folks authoring. So depending on how you're managing that, again, similar to other BI workflows, you can do something here. And we are in talks with Looker in general, on original Looker and Looker Studio to add more authentication options, add more performance to both of these things as we think about generally availability of these things. And one nice tidbit we did here was you can actually list all the clusters and warehouses automatically from the list. It will dynamically pull based on your account, so you don't have to remember or put the HTTP path for that. So just a little bonus to make connectivity easier. Maybe let's switch over to the dashboard view very quickly. And then, as we basically, once you're managing the connection, I'm now showing you guys a different table, where you can actually start querying it, explore it, add parameter, do whatever you're doing from the Looker Studio side of things. And let's just run a query just to make sure everything is working. And here you're getting, again, the unique country names from, the nation names from the previous table that we looked at, I think. Awesome. Let's go on to the next preview. So we're going to quickly switch gears a bit to show you guys all the exciting things we've done with dbt. And this part and like a few other things will be like just a few minutes before we do the Q&A. As I told you, right, one of the biggest themes that we've kind of done this year was to go deeper with certain partners. And what we've done on the transformation and dbt side is we took what customers said they loved about Databricks, which is being able to streaming ingest, incremental ingestion of different things, being able to do materializations incrementally, right, within the Databricks environment, and plug them into our top partners such as dbt so that you can use them as native integrations without having to go out of your way to kind of manage them. So here what you're seeing is that you have a streaming table, which is ingesting player data in a streaming fashion incrementally, right? It's automatically managing that based on the updates coming in and then appending them onto your table. And the second thing we have, another thing I talked about, right, which is kind of making sure that you have the best and greatest of Databricks right within here. So you're seeing, liquid clustering enabled automatically as part of this integration. You have the Databricks stack. So if you wanted to track price and usage, that will actually get passed through to your query history, and that is all available from there. And then, maybe go down. Oh, and then one other thing I actually forgot was we also now added the ability to point different dbt models to different compute. So if you have a Python model that you wanted to run on your all-purpose clusters, but you wanted to actually run the rest of them in a high-performance warehouse, all your SQL, you can now do that. If you wanted to run half of it in one SQL warehouse and the other one in a half SQL warehouse, you could also get that done. And one final thing we've done here is we also integrated materialized views as part of this. So now, as you have, let's say, something that you wanted to materialize and automatically make incremental, you can have materializations from Databricks DLT automatically applying here as well. So between the streaming ingestion and being able to materialize and also being able to use Lakehouse Federation data sources, by the way, you have a powerful combination of features that are just baked in directly into dbt. Cool. And on a final small bonus demo, we don't have the full Arrow database connectivity working in Power BI just yet. That's something we're working with Power BI to get done. But we actually wanted to show you a quick demo of like how this is eventually going to be enabled So what you're seeing right now is ADBC being used through the .NET adapter for Spark. And what that means is now in your .NET environment, C# environment, you can directly use an arrow-based connectivity, which over the long term will translate to better benefits on Power BI. But if you have custom applications, we will also enable that for you to be able to use that. Here, what you're seeing is we're actually getting all the order data from our demo data set we just told you, where the total price is above 300,000, which is, I guess, expensive. And then you're just running a query, and that's going to be returning us around 359 results to make that available to you. And with that, that actually concludes our demo section. If you could just go to the slides for a second. Just to recap, very high level, right? A lot of the focus for us this year has been around going deeper with BI partners and DBT, so partners such as DBT. You'll see us continually invest in the Open API driver side. And you'll also see us invest in security, Partner Connect, just to make sure that we can onboard more and more partners as the ecosystem evolves and as your needs evolve and you have more custom applications.